Alright, so this is a continuation video of how to do a drawing using SolidWorks. So the previous videos we talked about how to set up your drawing, how to edit your title block, how to add a rev block, and the video after that we talked about how to two different ways of making your orthographic projections or your views and isometric when placing your isometric views. So what we're going to go over is applying dimensions onto the views. Now, much like when you're creating the part, there's a similar tool there in Sketch or in Annotations here in the Annotation and Sketch tab on your command managers here. There's a tool here called Smart Dimensioning. So you can find that again in Annotations or in Sketch. But it's the same tool that you would use when you apply dimensions when you're in a Sketch environment when modeling this view. So it's the same exact thing or same exact process when applying dimensions onto the drawing. So we want to just select that view, and from here we just go ahead and dimension every single feature on the view. So this would be one way of doing it. Notice how when I'm selecting this tool, you select the edge and it'll bring out the dimension, and you can place it anywhere on the drawing. Well, not anywhere, but you can move it up or down. And since this 3-inch dimension here, since it's a vertical dimension, you can move it left or right in relative to the edges of the part. And same with a circle. If you select it, then the dimension comes out, and with a slot. So what I'm going to show you is actually a quicker, faster way to dimension rather than having to pull out every single dimension on the part. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these dimensions. I'm going to go ahead and select the dimension, hit delete, select the dimension, hit delete, select the dimension, hit delete. So the best way to dimension using SolidWorks, the fastest and easiest way, I'm going to go ahead and double click my primary view right here. I know that it's activated because the corners here are solid lines. And in the Annotations tab, there's a tool here called Model Items. I'm going to select Model Items, and on the left-hand side here are going to be the different options for this particular tool. Under Source, I'm going to make sure I'm under Entire Model, and Dimensions right here, I'm going to go ahead and select Marked for Drawings. Okay. Now notice how, if I zoom in here into this view, okay, in space right here, when I'm not on top of a view, I just have a regular mouse cursor. But if I scroll over onto the part itself, notice how there's that SolidWorks part symbol right beside the cursor. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select that, and that will automatically pull out every single driving dimension on the part. Okay, not just on that view, but also on the principal view as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select OK, and there you go. So I have all the necessary dimensions on this particular drawing. Now SolidWorks is clever enough to know that when you use that model item tool, this auto dimensioning tool, it's not gonna give you any duplicate dimensions. So it's never gonna over dimension your views. So notice how on the top view here, the thickness of the plate here is called out 1/2 inch, but it's not called out on the right view. Now if it was called out on both views, then this particular particular drawing would be over dimensioned because we have two similar views, or similar dimensions on two different views. So that is one great thing that I like to use with SolidWorks when drafting. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lay out these views using stack dimensioning and make it look nice and tidy. So to just move these views, you just click and hold, and then you can drag. You'll notice how you'll have some reference lines there that are in yellow, and this is snapping to a relative position from another dimension. In this case, it's snapping to this dimension and trying to center it with that. So it's a useful feature. You could turn it off in your tools options. I like to use it because it just makes placing these dimensions a lot easier. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this nice, neat, and tidy here real fast. So I'm drag this out here, left hand side, this one right there. All right, so now I have my dimensions. I'm gonna go ahead and add the datums onto the drawing. So to add datums, under the Annotations tab on your command managers, we are going to select datum feature, activate this tool, okay, and we are going to make this bottom surface of your primary view datum A. Okay, so notice how that's been placed right there, placed a little bit outside from this dimension. And then datum B, I'm going to go ahead and select the edge here of this part. Now that orange means that that's the highlighted feature that you're wanting to use or pick. I'm going to go ahead and apply that. I'm going to slide it down, and I'm going to place datum B right here. And then datum C is going to be, I'm going to place it on, well, since I have a dimension here on this top view, I'm going to go ahead and make this surface datum C. All right, so now we have our 3 primary datums applied or called out on the drawing. So we have A for this surface, B for this surface, and then C for this front surface of the part. All right. So from the looks of it, the views are properly dimensioned. All the dimensions are there. We have datums. Now we just have to make sure that this is prettied up and annotated correctly. So with holes, notice how these holes have hidden lines, but it's also, every hole needs a center line, and this top view is missing the center line for these holes. So to add center lines, under the Annotation tab, you'll see the center line tool option. I'm going to select that. I'm going to go ahead and select these 2 edges of the hole. Boom. And I'm also going to do the same here on the right view. Select these 2 edges, and there is my center line. Now, just like a hole, a slot is a hole, and we're going to need our center lines for this particular slot. So I'm going to choose the center line tool again. I'm going to go ahead and choose the 2 sides of this slot. Now it gives you the, oh, excuse me, I did this wrong. I'm going to cancel out that. I'm going to delete the center line. We're actually going to use center mark. So this center mark tool is going to give me the center mark of the radius of this slot. So I'm going to select this radius right here. And now it gave me the center mark of the slot, but I don't want the center mark of the actual slot. I want the center mark of the radius on both ends. So on the left hand side here of the center mark, while it's activated, notice how the square box here of the center mark is activated. Oh, excuse me, the center box is right here. That indicates that this tool is still activated. On the left hand side, I'm gonna look for slot center marks, and I'm going to choose slot ends. So that's going to give me the center marks of the 2 radius of the slot, and also give me my center line of the slot itself. All right. So let's go ahead and make this accurate. Notice how this center mark to this dimension line, there's a gap. So this is a witness line gap, and we want to make sure that we have that gap in there to easily distinguish the center mark of a feature. Notice how in the slot here we don't have that gap. So to add that gap, all we want to do is select the dimension. Okay, and you'll notice these 2 squares pop up. I'm just going to grab one of these squares and I'm just going to drag it down and give it a good approximation where I think it may be. So in this case, it's about that far, and I'm going to give it right there, and it kind of snaps to where the end of the witness gap, or excuse me, the witness line gap should be. This one doesn't really show, and it's a little glitch with SolidWorks. There's a gap there, but if you click out, oh, it's still not showing up. Oh, that's why. Oh. Let me do this. Alright, so let me fix this real fast. Not sure why that's not showing. There's still like a phantom line there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this center mark and grab this, move this down, and I'm just going to reapply a center mark right there, and then select slot ends on the left hand side, and there you go. Alright, so now we have our witness line gaps. Alright, so we have center lines indicating the holes on each view, and then we have our so center marks for the holes, and dimensions, datums, and yeah, so we are good to go here with dimensioning. So the next video here is going to be our last video, and that's going to be applying the titles to these views.